When I walk in, every ancestor move. Every cell in my body got an ancient groove. I ain't searching for truth, I embody the proof. You look at me, you see the lineage. Every obstacle shift when I rise in them.
Hello, everybody. Happy Wednesday and welcome to another round of my Patriot Report Live. I am the bridge connecting the next generation to federal contracting. I am Ritwan Hill. With me, I have the man, the myth, the legend, the peace ambassador. The ambassador of peace, Mr. Walter Cotton III. Mr. Cotton, how you doing today?
Man, after Taco Tuesday, I'm full. Right, I'm full. Yeah, I'm feeling good today.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So let's get right into it. You know, we're close to this constitutional deadline where Congress ultimately has to make.
Can I throw a curve at the top of this thing? You know, because I noticed that you start the broadcast by indicating that you're the bridge between the next generation, and I can imagine the audience trying to figure out what's on the bridge. Right? Like, what kind of things are, you, the young veteranpreneur, working on? Like, what's on the bridge?
I mean,
can you give the audience an idea of the kind of projects you have underway?
Yes, I can. Yes, I can. I hesitated because I didn't know how much that wanted to be shared without an NDA, but. But yes, I'm working on opportunities in the wireless telecommunication space where we think
what?
Where we see where we can help the government.
Do tell a little bit more about what you're doing in the wireless telecommunication space.
Yes, sir. Yeah. So, we identified a way to, help them save money ultimately. So that's the best without giving too much sauce.
Help who save money?
We can help the Department of Defense save money on their telecommunications, man. Yeah.
Like how much money do you think you can help the Department of Defense save?
Well, from our analysis, we could save up to 30%.
So you have a solution on the bridge that will help the Department of Defense save up to 30% of their current communication costs. Is that what I heard you say?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. What else do you have on the bridge? What other kind of solutions are on your bridge?
Yes, sir. Well, we see a way to bridge the gap between Ability One and the service disabled veteran community and help empower both of those communities and bring new opportunities that is beneficial to both communities.
What are you talking about? That mandatory list community of people with differing abilities? You found a way to bridge a value gap between them and the disabled veterans. Do tell me more about what you have on your bridge, Mr. Hill.
Yes, sir. Well, not to go into too much detail, but yes, we see an opportunity and a pathway that allows us to work hand in hand with the NPAs that are, or the nonprofit agency that are under the Ability One Commission to help them get new contract opportunities that are outside of that mandatory list. And, the first industry we identified was facility support because, a lot of their work consists of components of that industry like janitorial, landscape, pest control, and et cetera.
And I do know that you've been kind of hyper focused on the fact that Congress haven't found their way to fund Homeland Security, and that FEMA is a component of Homeland Security. And so what kinds of things do you have on the bridge from a veteran disaster response perspective?
Yes, sir. I'm glad you asked that. So we see an immediate response to, the Department of Homeland Security not being funded by taking the power into our own hands by using our own natural resources, which is the veterans and the patriots, by creating our own disaster readiness network by empowering all those organizations that are already doing disaster readiness type of ordeals, from the facility support to, you know, dredging, to all those aspects of disaster readiness preparation. We see the opportunity of bridging that gap by putting all of us in, by all of us working together and creating one centralized network that is answering directly to all disasters.
You know, Mr. Hill, I hear you talk about opportunities that, from my perspective, represent big, hairy ball, audacious opportunities that require a resource pool that's significant, right? The size of a Halliburton, if you want to throw out a name, right? So explain to me how you plan to resource this big, hairy ball, audacious vision. How are you going to get the capability and capacity to execute against this? Or are you just delivering pipe dreams?
Oh no, absolutely not, sir. We have a methodology. We know that we could create a bigger small business in all of these lanes that we've identified, that we essentially can have rack and steering opinion of how we move in those industries and in those lanes. You know, it's just really a know-how, you know, and I have to always give my credit and my thanks to my elders, to you, because you've been pouring into me. So, you know, that's my secret weapon, or my, not even a secret weapon, because you guys should already know what type of relationship we have now. But the fact of the matter is, that's the advantage we have, that I have 20 plus years of knowledge, experience, advocacy, and understand of wisdom, which is knowledge plus experience together, that allows me to, you know, have that understanding of how we could put those things together, because it's really just a knowledge gap that people are having.
You know, I'm humbled by your inclusion of me in your bridge solution. But what I really wanted the audience to see is that our younger community of warriors, our younger communities of veterans, are prepared for the mission, and they know what they're doing. And we want you to give them a free and willing hand of support when they knock on your door. Thanks for enduring that curve, Mr. Hill. I just wanted the audience to know the dream is real.
Yes, no, okay, so, and that leads me to a question. Now that you said that I was looking at an article. This was an outdated article, and it was following from one of your articles that you had. But the article the young lady had was that it was a disconnect between the younger generation and the VSOs, where the VSOs, most of those VSOs had a more mature audience and, you know, mature veterans. And then it said that, you know, the younger generation kind of felt alienated when they were interfacing with that community. Do you think that's still now, this article again was like maybe 8 years ago. Now, from your perspective, do you think that's still a challenge that most of the VSOs and the veteran communities are still facing with?
Yes, I do. I do. And the outgrowth, or should I say the indicator that exists, is all of the veteran service organizations that have popped up on the scene recently, right? What is that? Wounded Warriors,
Yeah,
right? The whole Wounded Warriors community came online because our stalwart organizations, like the American Legion, like the Veterans of Foreign Wars, were not attractive to the new generation of veterans that were coming on the scene, right? The Gulf War veterans, you know, right? The, you know, Pete Heckseth type, you know, young veterans were not looking to go to the American Legion and prop up at the bar with a beer for several hours and talk, right? They wanted to do some, you know, stuff that was relevant. And so the demarcation point between our legacy VSOs and the new generation is clearly indicated by all of the nonprofit veteran-focused organizations that are popping up to kind of fill the gap that these outdated, antiquated VSOs aren't serving.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. Okay. So what is the the exact what do you believe is the exact symptom of the gap? Is it just a interest base, or is it just that difference in age gaps that is such a difference that the older generation may not understand the younger generation and vice versa?
No, I think that there was a cultural shift
Mm-hmm.
that happened. I retired with a service-connected disability in 1985,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a totally different community of veterans that were born in that season. I mean, we had a camaraderie. We had a each one teach one, a veteran helping veteran environment that seemed to have whittled away. Right, it seemed to have whittled away as the Cold War, went into a hotter war in Iraq, and so that change, um, I think, is an outgrowth of the new population of veterans that came online,
Mm-hmm.
and some realizations, right, that occurred in the community. But there is definitely a different relationship between today's inventory of veterans and yesterday's inventory of veterans, and dare I say, there's a lack of appreciation. There's a lesser appreciation I'm feeling for how America is approaching this generation of veterans versus what they did for previous generations of veterans.
And what when you said that, what popped in my mind was that article about the transition and assistance program. Now, does that dovetail and tie into that equation of why that gap separated? Like, does it have something to do with the fact of how the transition program more changed it to what it is now?
Absolutely. And you could go into the psychology and the
Right.
DNA of all of these things. And my perspective is just like the perspective of 1,000 other people, most of them less educated on these issues than I am, that would give you a different point of view in terms of how we got here. But in point of fact, the rush that the government had to insulate the economy from a 400,000 unemployment push into the economy caused the government to do what it does traditionally, right? It looked to academia, right? It looked to, right, the educated class to come up with a solution for our veterans, to come up with a solution for this population of professionals, paraprofessionals, and underemployables, right, entering into our society. And so those professionals who came up in academic, right, they didn't come up an experiential path, right? They got into an invention room and they sat down and they said, this was the best way for us to absorb this population. This was the easiest. This was the path of least resistance. And that path of least resistance became grooved as a component of our culture.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm of the opinion that those kinds of discountings, right? Let's relegate them to this population. Those kinds of orderings and managements over a population shifts people's paradigms in terms of how they're able to treat them.
Yes, sir. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Now, that dovetails into exactly, what our mission is and what we're looking to do, which is empower veterans to with the knowledge and the know-how to know that, we don't have to ask for permission. And now that we're in this, I would call it a golden time where we have all the laws on our side, we have laws that are currently going through Congress right now that we want to get passed, which is what we've been sounding the alarm on, the Contract on Veterans Act and the Veteran Member Business Loan Act. Could you accentuate on why those bills are important and why the Patriots and all the veterans, why they should care about these bills being passed?
Well, let me correct something that you said. You said that these are two pieces of legislation that we want to get passed. I would up the measure and weight and say these are two pieces of legislation that we have to get passed, right?
Okay.
And we have to get these pieces of legislation passed because America's economy is falling apart at the seams, right? It is falling apart at the seams, and the shenanigans that are coming out of our partisan politics, the shenanigans that are coming out of our geopolitical games that are being played are not making America safe. And so our patriots, right, our true patriots, recognizing this challenge and understanding that there's something that we can do before that tsunami wave hits, we're doing that. And the thing that we can do is we can take control of the narrative, right? And the narrative that we're taking control of is the narrative that says we're powerless. We're powerless to do anything about the policies. We're powerless to do anything about the people who represent our interest. And so our true patriots, this is the mission that we're driving, are becoming educated to the fact that we have a very simple path towards demonstrating who's with us and who's against us, right? And at this particular point, it's critical for us to define all of the true patriots that we currently have sitting in political office. And that's why we have designed an experiment, right, that will help our Congress demonstrate to we the people, and particularly him and her who bore the battle, their commitment to these United States. And we're simply asking you to participate in a benign exercise. And when I say benign, I say it's benign because it's not cancerous, right? And this very simple exercise won't cost you anything. All we're asking our patriots to do is to communicate to their members of Congress in the House and the Senate that there are two pieces of legislation that we simply want them to co-sponsor before they are passed. Let me restate that. We need them to co-sponsor these bills before they are passed. These bills will be voted on and passed as a part of this cycle. If your name is included as a co-sponsor in this bill, you are signaling to the veteran community that's asking you to demonstrate your patriotic commitment to these United States, to the constitutional republic that we have. You're demonstrating and signaling to us that you're with us. If you don't, right, if you don't take advantage of this opportunity, you're signaling to us and the voters in your community that you may have a different agenda. And ignorance is not an excuse for not acting, because we are saying this now, we are saying it early, and we will say it often. We need our elected officials to demonstrate their allegiance to America, not some political action committee, not some foreign nation, not some other outside influence. And you can simply do that by co-sponsoring this bill. I'm going to put the big talking stick down right there.
Yes, sir. Now, you are an individual who's been doing this for 20 plus years now. Every time I talk to you, there's an ocean of knowledge. You be throwing things I never even couldn't even fathom. Now, how do you get that level? How do you get that pedigree that you could differentiate yourself so much from all the other cult of personalities that are in this space? How are you able? How are you able to establish that foundation?
You know, they say the necessity tends to be the mother of invention. Mm-hmm. And so I'm a disabled veteran myself that was going through the career life cycle management that every other veteran goes through. When I found my way back in the late 90s, early 2000s to the 3% contracting goal, public law 10650. And I said to myself, man, the government has got billions of dollars that they're making available to someone that looks like me. By gosh, I'm going to go get me some. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so the desire to prove that particular equation created the necessity and the system that I ran into, right? The propeller blades, which is federal contracting, right? Required me to, become innovative as I slipped through these different channels to get to success. So it was necessity that was the mother of invention. The thing that differentiates me from the next guy is that after I, did my Indiana Jones thing and, made it through the obstacle course and got the golden statue, right? Instead of keeping the knowledge of the pathway to myself, I realized that, man, I had a bunch of fraternity members back there in BDUs and boots. And I wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed, but you know what? I could hoe a few fields if you used me. And so what I did was recognize that if it took me this much time to find my way to this solution, that my fraternity members were going to have a challenge unless somebody got a bag of breadcrumbs and left the pathway. And so I did that. Instead of keeping that knowledge to myself and getting rich, as Dave Chappelle would say, what I did was I aligned with the American Legion, right, and the SBA, and went around the country on my own dime, evangelizing to good veterans that would listen the good news about the solution. And we were able to move the needle in contracting, as most people know, to the numbers that we were able to do it. But what is seductive about that experience is, man, you get a charge helping other people. Right. There's a value that comes from doing good for other people. And quite candidly, for a longer period than I should have, right, I remained seduced by the advocacy season. Right. I became seduced by my ability to evangelize to other veterans a message that they could use to literally self-determine for their family. Right. And fast forward today, 20 years later, I'm on my final voyage. I'm doing my final movement. So those of you who are within the sound of my voice, count yourself blessed.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's a hell of a message to drop, the last voice. But no, I understand. You put in all the work, you put in all the effort, and you have the receipts to show that the work you put in has paid off to a lot of veterans. 19 billion in some communities, 150 billion in others. That's something that you can't ignore.
You can't ignore it, but the truth of the matter is, everything in its season, right? And in my season, I was able to stand on the shoulders of some giants, right? Like Dan Gill, right? I could Billy Jenkins, Joe Sharp. I could drop names all day of the individuals who were the wind beneath my wings that made me soar above the clouds and look like, the $8 million man, like I was Mr. The Thing, right? I know that my season, just like those gentlemen's season, is coming to an end, right? And the baton was handed to me to carry the mission over this leg. And I'm preparing now to hand the baton to the next generation, right? Because this is a continuation, right? It ain't over until we win, right? And so I'm eagerly looking to have the benefit of my sacrifice, the benefit of my key learnings, support revitalizing America, making America safe again, right? Putting this country on a trajectory to be for my kids and my grandkids what it was for me, right? That beautiful city on the hill, right? That shiny city on a hill that everybody aspired to be a part of because the lady was welcoming, right? A country that was agreement capable because you could trust it, right? A country that was resource rich and had an open hand to help its neighboring organizations. But I'm on my soapbox again, going down that rabbit hole. Let me back away.
No, that's always appreciated when you give your insights. Now, I'll make a hairpin pivot. Well, not a hairpin pivot, but we've been beating the message of we the people have the power. Now, if the Constitution start with we the people, what is the power do we actually have? Because that's a broad thing to say. We the people have the power, but what is the power that we have?
And what you described is the preamble to the Constitution,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Right. That's the Declaration of Independence, right? And we have inalienable rights as a result of that document, which is unique from any other country in the world. We have a constitutional republic, which means that every individual's voice, every individual's vote is sovereign. And if we could bring those votes together in an opinion block, we could deliver the voice. That's the democratic system that we have of electing our officials. But at its foundation is the constitutional republic, is a environment that says everybody gets the rights that are written in this document. Irrespective of your station in our country, irrespective of your gender in our country, irrespective of your financial position in our country, irrespective of your ethnicity in our country, if you are a citizen of these United States, this document shares what your minimum viable product as it relates to rights are.
Mm-hmm.
And so that means that all we have to do is figure out a way to communicate that to the political leaders that are driving the policies and decisions that govern us, right? The politicians serve at the will of the governed. They are not governors of the governed, right? This is an important consideration twist that over time has been pivoted to give power to the politicians. They do not own the power, right? They are human beings. They put their pants and dresses on just like we do. And so if they are not performing, then we have the checks and balance under the Constitution to pull them into compliance. And that's the power of our constitutional republic. And we just need to go beyond schoolhouse rock understanding of how our political system works in order to understand it. But schoolhouse rock is a good start because you understand how being a bill on Capitol Hill trying to become a law, you understand how the process works. And once you understand how the process works, you start seeing yourself in the process. Because at the end of the day, the president has only the authorities that are allowed to him by the Constitution, and the people that don't hold the Congress accountable for the checks and balances that we've empowered them with. So right now we have a situation in our political discourse that's out of control, and we need to replace partisanism with patriotism, right? There's too much partisanism in our politics, and that partisanism is making for some strange bedfellows.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Before I get to going to the website, so we could show everybody how to search to access their Congress. We made it an easy process, a straight through line for you guys to engage with your Congress and ask them to co-sponsor these two bills. My question is, if we the people don't engage, who fills the vacuum? Is that what's essentially what's happening right now, where
Well, you know, you can't leave a power vacuum without something taking its place,
Yeah.
right? And whether that something is of equal or greater value, right? We don't want to leave that up to chance,
Right.
right? And so if we the people, aren't engaging, right, then there's somebody else that are funding these political action committees, right? That's causing our politicians to vote in a way that's not in the best interest of these United States, right? And those investments create other economic or ecosystem foundations that build on each other, and you have a system that's self-fulfilling and self-supporting, and you are not a part of that system, right? And so what we've got to recognize is we got to recognize when our systems of systems have run afoul, right? When they've gotten to the place where they no longer create optimum value for the people, and then we need to put solutions in place to replace that. I think we're at that inflection point right now. I think that when we're sitting in a situation where we are greater than $51 billion into an action that has made us less safe, and our politicians are debating what the next step needs to be done, that's a clear indication, in my opinion, that something needs to be done, right? When we're in a situation where our politicians have funded the creation of the fourth largest army in the world in the interior of these United States, and that army has already been responsible for the death of American citizens, I think it's time for us to wake up as a people and start, looking at what that invisible hand is doing to our democracy, right? What it's doing to our constitutional republic. And I could go on, but I'm not, because we want to just demonstrate to you your simple power and authority as a citizen of these United States, and how simple it is for us to reclaim our time, how simple it is for us to cause this Congress, and therefore this executive branch, to adhere to the will of the people.
Yes, sir. And before I show you guys the website, I want to give you a disclaimer that we are nonpartisan. We are strictly what's best for the United States and the Constitution. That's where our oath is. So I did want to make that public disclaimer. And as you guys see, as I stated, we made it a simple and easy process for you to be able to identify and reach out to your Congress. So before I walk you through to the actual site, I would want to scroll down where you see individuals like Mr. Elmore, who is responsible for creating a lot of the veteran programs. Then you got Mr. Cotton here, who, 20 plus years of advocacy for the service disabled veteran owned small business community, billions of dollars. He has helped individuals create generational wealth for them and their families.
And can I interject something here, Mr. Hill? Because I want you to go back up for a minute and look at the ordering of those individuals, even on that page. Bill Elmore, who is, he wrote the legislation that created Public Law 10650. And you guys should go and read the pedigree of the programs that this young man created for our veteran community. I stand on the shoulders of individuals like this. That's why even in this kind of a rendering, which is a rendering that I funded, right, that I created, I subordinate myself to that kind of wisdom. Folks, we are a community of order. We are a community of rules, a community of laws, and we need to work together. I'm sorry. I just wanted to point that out. We don't violate our chain of command even in this community.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's important. And I think that goes into that military bearing we have, because we understand the chain of command. We understand how to play our position and play our roles that we need to play. So, guys, what we did, make it easy for you. we created a template that you can use as an example for the language to ask your Congress to sponsor, to co-sponsor the two bills, which is the Contract Our Veterans Act and the Veteran Member Business Loan Act. So you would just take this information simply and you would scroll up to contact your Congress. Once you click contact your Congress, you will go to this Democracy IO, and then you will put your address in there like so. Submit. You will get your senators and your representatives, and then you simply click write to them.
Ah, the spinning wheel Bill Gates moment. But what would normally come up after this is a form. Carry on, Mr. Hill.
Yes, sir. And with the form pops up, you know, the template has the subject line. You just paste the subject line in there. And then it already has dear your senator representatives. And then you would simply just paste the body of that template in here, asking them to specifically co-sponsor those two bills, which is Contract Our Veterans Act and the Veteran Member Business Loan Act. And everything else is self-explanatory. I won't insult your intelligence. And it's just that simple, guys.
And very simply put, as Mr. Hill indicates, once you deliver this communication into your congressman, into your senator, you will be surprised at how quickly they will react, because this is direct communication from their constituents, right? It's not polling information that they're getting off of, you know, some pollster site, right? And what we're asking them to do is we're asking them to show up on this list, right? This is an immediate indication of their commitment to our community. So when they go to their terminal within their office and say, hey, I want to co-sponsor this particular bill, what they do is they get a indication immediately in this portal of their support. That means we get an immediate indication of their voting record, and we don't have to guess in terms of what their commitment level is. We want them to show up here, and we want them to show up often. What's this Mike guy? I saw some Mike guy there on the 16th in Florida. Did we already have that representative?
We did, yes, sir. There's no updates as of today. Yes.
Okay, very, very, very good. Yeah, so I'm just pointing out that we're paying very close attention to this page, because the representatives that show up as co-sponsors are representatives that are going to get the green light for endorsement during the midterm.
Absolutely.
Period.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. And guys, on that note, we ask that you reach out to your Congress and ask them to co-sponsor this bill. And also we ask that if you would, help us continue this good fight and supporting veterans, disabled veterans, and advocating for these rights. So if you could just scan the barcode and anything help, because this is self-funded, guys. On that note, I am Ratwan Hill, and that is Mr. Walter Cotton III, and we will see y'all tomorrow.